Hello and welcome back to another lecture. In this project, we will use Ansible to deploy this website on multiple instances. We will also use this reference architecture to complete this project. And to explain how Ansible works, first we will launch an EC2 instance called ansible-machine and we will install Ansible on it. Then we will create key pair on the Ansible machine and use the key pair to establish SSH connection between the Ansible machine and the servers we want to configure. To establish an SSH connection, we will also create a security group that allows SSH access between the Ansible machine and the servers. Next, we will launch 3 EC2 instances. These are the servers we will configure with Ansible and we will install the website on. We will create an Ansible playbook. A playbook contains a list of commands, also called tags, that we want to run on the servers. Next, we will also create an inventory file. And an inventory file contains the private IP address of the instances we want to configure and execute the playbook. And the last thing we will do is create the Ansible configuration file. The configuration file contains all the configuration Ansible we use during the runtime. I'll show you what that means shortly. This is the note I created for this project, and the note contains a list of things we have to do to complete this project. I'll leave the note in this video's description so you can follow along. The first thing we have to do is create a security group for the Ansible machine. So I'm going to minimize this. In the management console, type VPC in the search box and select VPC under services. On the VPC dashboard on the left side, scroll down. Under security, select security groups. Click create security group. Give the security group a name. We will call the first security group ansible-machine security group. Once you've given the security group a name, we will use the same name as the description. Then scroll down. Under VPC, select this X. We are going to create this security group in the default VPC. So select your default VPC. Under inbound rule, click add rule. The rule we will add is for SSH. So select this drop down and select SSH. SSH is on port 22, and for the source, we will limit it to our IP address. Select this drop down and select my IP. Once you've added the rule, scroll down and click create security group. The second thing we will do is create another security group that we will add to the web servers. So while we are still in the security group section, select security groups here and select create security group. Give the security group a name. I'll call it server security group. Once you've given the security group a name, we will use the same name for the description. Under VPC, select this X and make sure you select your default VPC. Then scroll down. Under inbound rules, click add rule. The first rule we will add is on HTTP port 80. Select this drop down and select HTTP. Then under source, select this drop down and select anywhere on IPv4. The second rule we will add is on SSH port 22. Click add rule, then select this drop down and select SSH. And for the source of this traffic, we will limit the source to the security group of the Ansible server we created previously. So select in here, then scroll down. Under security group section, select the Ansible machine security group we created previously. Once you've added the two rules, scroll down and click create security group. Now that we have created both of our security group for the Ansible machine and the servers, the next thing we will do is launch the EC2 instance for the Ansible machine. So I'm going to minimize here. In the management console, type EC2 in the search box and select EC2 under services. On the EC2 console, select launch instance and select launch instance again. Give the instance a name. We will call it Ansible machine. Once you've given the instance a name, scroll down. Under application and OS images, select the Quick Start tab. On the Quick Start tab, select Amazon Linux. Then scroll down. Make sure under the AMI, you have select Amazon Linux 2, which is the free tier 1. Scroll down. Under Instance Type, also make sure you have select T2 Micro, which is the free tier. Scroll down. Under Key Pair, select this drop down and select a key pair you have in your account. I'll select this key pair. If you don't have a key pair in your account, you can click Create a key pair here. Then scroll down. Under Network Settings, select Edit. For the VPC, we will launch the EC2 instance in the default VPC. So select this drop down and select your default VPC. Under Subnet, it doesn't really matter which subnet you launch the EC2 instance in, but I'll select the drop down and select US East 1A. Under Security Groups, select an existing security group. Then click this drop down and select the ansible-machine security group you created previously. Then scroll down. These are all the settings we need to add for the ansible-machine EC2 instance. You can review the settings here and click Launch Instance. We have successfully launched the EC2 instance. To see it, click View All Instances. And there you go. You can see the EC2 instance here. We called it ansible-machine. This is the EC2 instance we will install Ansible on. Once we have launched the EC2 instance, we will install Ansible on. The next thing we will do is SSH into this EC2 instance, and we will create a key pair on this EC2 instance. The key pair is what we will use to establish an SSH connection between this Ansible machine and the servers we want to configure. So the next thing I want you to do is SSH into your Ansible machine server. To SSH into this server, I'll select it. Then I'll copy the public IPv4 address. I'll use POTI to SSH into this server. In POTI, the host name will be ec2-user at the IP address I just copied. Once you have entered the host name, select the plus sign under SSH and select auth. Then browse to the location where you saved the private key pair on your computer. I'll select Browse. The private key is saved in my Downloads folder. I'll scroll down here. This is the private key of the key pair that I add to the EC2 instance. I'll select it and click Open. Once you select the private key, click Open. Then click Yes. There you go. I've SSH into the Ansible machine server. Once you have SSH into the Ansible machine, the next thing we will do is run this command on it to create a key pair. The key pair is what we will use to establish an SSH connection between the Ansible machine and the servers we want to configure. So copy this command and in your SSH session, paste it in there. The command is ssh-keygen-t. The T stands for type and the type is RSA. The B stands for byte and the byte we want to create is 2048. Once you've typed the command, press enter. Then press enter again. Then press enter again. Then press enter again. We have successfully created the key pair on the Ansible machine, and it is telling you that the key pair is stored in the home ec2user.ssh directory. So the next thing we will do is go into that directory. We are already in the home directory of our EC2 instance. If you type pwd and press enter, you will see you are already in the home/ec2user, which is this. So all we have to do here is change our directory into the .ssh directory. So I'm going to type cd space .ssh. Once you type the command, press enter. And we have changed our directory into the SSH directory. I'm going to clear my screen so you can see everything better. Once you have changed your directory into the SSH directory, now if you type ls and press enter, you will see the key pair we just created. Remember, anytime you create a key pair, two keys will be generated for you, a private key and a public key. The key you see here is the private key, and the key you see here with the .pub, that is the public key. So the next thing we need to do is import this public key into the EC2 console. So when we launch the servers, we will add the key to them. To import this key into the EC2 console, I'm going to maximize this for now. Then I'm going to print the content of the public key. To print the content, I'm going to type cat and the name of the key. The name of the key is id_rsa.pub. Once you type cat id_rsa.pub, this will print the content of that key. Press enter. And there you go. This is the content of my key. So all you need to do is select everything from SSH to the EC2 internal, select everything, then press Ctrl C to copy it. Once you've copied it, I'm going to minimize this. Then let's go to the management console. In the EC2 management console, scroll down. Under network and security, select key pairs. Then select actions and select import key pair. Give the key pair a name. I'll call it Ansible public key. Once you've given the key pair a name, in this box, we will paste the content of the public key we copied in here. So I'm going to right click and select paste. And there you go. This is all you need to do. Once you have pasted the content of the public key, scroll down and click import key pair. We have successfully imported the public key of the key pair we created on the Ansible machine to our EC2 console. Then when we launch the servers we want to connect to, we will add this key pair to those servers. According to our note, we are on step 6. On step 6, we will launch the servers we want to use Ansible to configure. I'll minimize this. Then I'm going to go to the EC2 dashboard, select launch instance, and select launch instance again. Give the instance the name. I'll call it server. Once you've given the EC2 instance a name, under number of instances, we will type 3 in here because we want to create 3 EC2 instances at the same time. Then scroll down. Under application and OS images, select the quick start tab. Then on this tab, select Amazon Linux. Make sure under AMI, you have select Amazon Linux 2. It is the free tier. Scroll down. Under instance type, make sure you select the T2 micro. Scroll down. Under key pair, select this drop down and make sure you select the Ansible public key we just import. Then scroll down. Under network settings, select edit. We will launch these EC2 instances in the default VPC. And for the subnet preference, we can select this drop down. It doesn't really matter, but I'll select US East 1B. Under security groups, select an existing security group. Then select this drop down and select the server security group we created previously. Then scroll down. These are all the settings we need for the EC2 instance. Remember, the number of EC2 instances we are launching is 3. And these are the settings for the EC2 instances. Once you've reviewed everything, click Launch Instance. We have successfully launched 3 EC2 instances, and we will use the Ansible machine to install our website on these 3 EC2 instances. To see the EC2 instance, click View All Instances. In the management console, you can see the 3 servers we just launched. Once we've launched the 3 servers, the next thing we need to do is test the connection between the Ansible machine and the 3 servers. So what we want to make sure here is that we can SSH from the Ansible machine into the 3 servers we just launched. So let's go back to our SSH session. In the SSH session, first I'm going to change my directory to the home directory. To change your directory to the home directory, type cd space and the tilde sign. Once you type cd space the tilde sign, it is going to take you back to the home directory. Press enter. You can see now that I am in the home directory. To verify that you are in the home directory, if you type pwd and press enter, you will see that I am in the home/EC2 user directory. Remember that the EC2 instance we are in is the Ansible machine. So the next thing we want to test is that we can connect from this Ansible machine to these servers we just launched. To test whether you can connect from the Ansible machine to the servers, the first thing we are going to do is select this server here. Then we will copy the private IPv4 address. Then come back to your SSH session. In the terminal, type SSH space and paste the IP address there. So it should look like this: SSH space, the private IPv4 address of the server you just copied, and press enter. The first time you try to SSH into the server, it would ask you this question: type yes and press enter. And there you go. We can SSH from the Ansible machine into the first server. And you can tell we are in the first server because if you look at the IP address here, I'm going to move this up. You will see that the IP address here is the same as the one here. Let me move this here so you can see it. Right now, I have selected the first server. You can see the IP address here. It is the same as the private IP address of that server. So this means that we have connection from the Ansible machine to that server. To exit out of this, I'm going to type exit. And when you exit out of it, now we are back in the Ansible machine. If you look at this IP address, I'm going to select my Ansible machine. You will see that this IP address is the same as the private IP address of the Ansible machine. That is how you know in which server you are currently in. The next thing we will do is test whether we can connect to the second server. I'll select the second server. I'll copy the private IPv4 address of that server. Then in my SSH session, I'm going to type SSH space, then paste the private IP address of that server there. Press enter. The first time you try to SSH into the server, it will ask you this question. Type yes and press enter. There you go. We can SSH into the second server from the Ansible machine. I'm going to exit out of it. And I'm going to test the third one. So I'll select the third server. Then I'll copy the private IPv4 address in the SSH session. So here I'm going to type SSH space and paste the private IPv4 address of the third server there. Then press enter. Type yes and press enter. And there you go. We can SSH into the third server from the Ansible machine. I'm going to type exit again to go back into the Ansible machine. And I'll clear the screen. Before we proceed, one thing I want to mention is we establish an SSH connection between the Ansible machine and the servers with our key pair. So when we create a key pair, two keys are generated. In order to establish an SSH connection between your Ansible machine and the servers you want to connect to, you will put the private key of the key pair on the Ansible machine, and the public key, you will put them on the servers you want to connect to. This is how we are able to establish an SSH connection between the Ansible machine and the servers we want to connect to. I also want you to note that we haven't installed Ansible on the Ansible machine yet. So it is not Ansible that is making the connection. It is the key pair and the security groups we have added to these instances that allow us to make the SSH connection between the Ansible machine and the servers. This was a concept I struggled with the first time I was learning Ansible because I thought Ansible was the one making the connection. So I just want to make that clear. It is not Ansible making the connection. It is the key pair and the security groups that allow us to make the connection from the Ansible machine to the servers we want to connect to. We have successfully tested that we can connect from the Ansible machine to the servers. The next thing we will do is install Ansible on the Ansible machine. To install Ansible on the Ansible machine, we will run these two commands. The first command will update our EC2 instance. So I'll copy this command and paste it in my SSH terminal and press enter. It is updating the EC2 instance, and I'll wait for the shell prompt to be available. It has successfully updated the EC2 instance. I'll drag this here and I'll just move this here. The next command we will copy is the second command. Select it and copy it. Then in your SSH session, paste it in there and press enter. This is the command to install Ansible on the Ansible machine. It is now installing Ansible, and I'll wait for it to finish installing it. It has successfully installed Ansible on the Ansible machine. To verify that Ansible was successfully installed, we are going to type ansible-version. Once you type ansible-version, press enter. When you type ansible-version, you will get an output that tells you the version of Ansible that is installed. The next thing we will do is create an Ansible inventory file. An Ansible inventory file is a file that contains the IP address of the servers we want Ansible to connect to. So, in our case, we want Ansible to connect to these 3 servers. So what we will do is we will create a file on the Ansible machine and we will list the private IPv4 address of these servers in that file. So let's go back to our SSH session. In the SSH session, I'm going to clear the screen. To create the inventory file, type sudo vi inventory like this. The command is sudo vi inventory. Once you type the command, press enter. Once you type the command and press enter, it will open the vi editor. And to edit this file, press I on your computer to go into the insert mode. Once you press I on your computer, you will see insert here. This means that you can edit this file. The next thing I want you to do is copy the private IPv4 address of your servers and paste it in this file. So I'll go back to my EC2 console. I'll start at the top. I'll select the first server, copy the private IPv4 address. Then I'll come back to my SSH session, paste it there, press enter. Then I'll go back to the EC2 console. I'll select the second server, copy the private IPv4 address, come back to the SSH session, paste it in there, press enter. Then I'll copy the private IPv4 address of the third server. Once you copy the IP address, come back to your SSH session, paste it in there, press enter. This is the IP address of the 3 servers we want to install the website on. Once you have entered the private IP address in this file, press the escape key on your keyboard. And this is going to exit out of the insert mode. Then press :WQ exclamation mark. So make sure you type it like this, :WQ exclamation mark, and press enter. We have successfully created the inventory file in the home directory of the EC2 instance. And the inventory file contains the IP address of the servers we want to connect to. To see the inventory file, if you type ls and press enter, you will see the inventory file here. And to print the content of the inventory file, if you type cat and the name of the file you want to print the content, which is inventory, I'll type I and press the tab key to autocomplete. Then press enter. In the inventory file, you can see the IP address we paste in there. Once we have created the inventory file, the next thing we will create is the Ansible playbook. And the Ansible playbook contains a list of commands, also known as tags, that we want to run on the servers to install our website. This is the Ansible playbook I created that we will use to install the website on the servers. And in this video, I explain how to create this particular Ansible playbook. I'll leave the link in this video's description. So what I want you to do is open this reference file for the playbook in this video's description. Once you open it, select everything in this reference file by pressing Ctrl+A, then copy it. Once you've copied everything in this reference file, close it, then come back to your SSH session. In the SSH terminal, we will create the playbook in the home directory of our EC2 instance. So here we will type sudo vi and the name of the playbook. I'll call this playbook deploy techmax.yml, and you will type it like this. This is the command we will use to create the playbook. The command is sudo vi and the name of the playbook. You can give the playbook any name you want. Just make sure you have .yml at the end. This stands for YAML format, and your Ansible playbook always has to be in YAML format. Once you've typed the command, press enter. And it is going to open the VI editor. Remember, to edit this file, you have to be in insert mode. So press I on your computer to go into insert mode. You will see insert here when you are in insert mode. Once you are in insert mode, paste the playbook you copied in there. Once you've pasted the playbook, press escape key on your keyboard, and that is going to exit out of the insert mode. Then type :WQ!! Once you type :WQ!! press enter. We have successfully created a playbook in the home directory of the EC2 instance, and we call the playbook deploy-techmarks.yml. If you want to see the playbook, type ls and press enter. And there you go, you will see the playbook here. And to show the content of the playbook, we will type cat and the name of the playbook. The name of the playbook is called deploy-techmarks.yml. So I'll type DE. Once you start to type the name, press tab on your keyboard and it is going to auto-complete it for you. Then press enter. And there you go. You can see our playbook is in that file. I'm going to clear the screen. Once you have created the playbook, now we can run the playbook to install the website on the servers. According to the note on step 11, once we have created the playbook, we can run the playbook to install the website on the servers. But before we run the playbook, let's test whether Ansible can connect to the servers. To test if Ansible can connect to your servers, you will use this command. So I want you to copy this command. To explain this command, it is Ansible all. This means that we want to connect to all the servers in our inventory file. Then we have the flag key file, and the key file specifies the path to our private key on the Ansible server. Remember, our private key is in the .ssh, and the name of that key is id_RSA. Then we specify the I flag. The I flag represents our inventory file, and the name of our inventory file is inventory. Then we specify the module. The module we want to use is ping. So here we just want to ping the servers to make sure that Ansible can connect to them. Then here we specify the U flag. The U stands for username, and the username of the servers we want to connect to is ec2-user. So copy these commands. Once you've copied them, come back to your SSH session and paste it in there and press enter. And there you go. Let me maximize this. Once you paste the command in your SSH session and press enter, when you get success here, you can see for each private IP address of the servers, we have the success here and it is green. This means that for each servers, we are able to connect to those servers with Ansible. And you can see the third one also says success. Once you have verified that Ansible can connect to the servers, before we run our Ansible playbook, the next thing we will do is create the Ansible configuration file. And all an Ansible configuration file does is, let's go up here where we run these Ansible commands to ping the web servers. When we create the Ansible configuration file, we will list the path to our key pair, our inventory file, and our EC2 username as default. So that way, anytime we want to run our playbook, we don't have to keep entering them. To create the Ansible configuration file, in your SSH terminal, type sudo vi ansible.cfg like this. Once you type sudo vi ansible.cfg, press enter. And it is going to open the VI editor. Remember, to edit the file, you have to be in insert mode. Press I on your computer to go into insert mode. Once you are in insert mode, you will see insert here. And the next thing I want you to do is come to your notes. Copy the value under note 12. So from line 35 to 38. Copy everything. Once you've copied it, come back to your VI editor and paste it in there. So this will be the default values we don't have to keep entering anytime we want to run our playbook. For example, the username of our servers will always be ec2-user. So we don't want to keep typing that. That is why we have entered it here under default. The inventory file will always be the inventory file. So we have entered it here. And our key pair is in the SSH directory. And the name of the key pair is ID_RSA. These values will always be the same. And since we don't want to keep typing them, that is why we have entered them as defaults in the Ansible configuration file. Once you have entered the value, press escape on your keyboard. Then we are going to type :WQ!! Once you type :WQ!! Press enter. We have created the Ansible configuration file. I'm going to clear my screen. Then I'll type ls. I'll type cat and the name of the file and press enter. And there you go. You can see the content of that file. These are all the things we need to do to set up the Ansible machine. The last thing we will do is run our playbook to install the website on the servers. But before we run the playbook, let me show you something. In the EC2 console, if I select the server and I select the public IPv4 address, and I'll open a new web browser, paste it in there, press enter, and you will see that it will say site can't be reached. This is because we haven't installed anything on this EC2 instance. If I select the second one, so I'm doing this to show you that there is nothing on these EC2 instances. I'll paste the IP address there, press enter. Site can't be reached, and I'll try the third one. I'll paste it here. And you can see it says site can't be reached. This is because these are brand new EC2 instances and we haven't installed anything on them. When we run our Ansible playbook to install our website on this EC2 instance, if I come back and copy the public IPv4 address of each instance, I should be able to access the website. Let's go back to our note. In my notes, this is the command I will use to run the playbook. And the command is Ansible playbook and the name of the playbook we want to run. So whatever name you call the playbook, that is what you will enter after your Ansible playbook. Remember, I called my playbook deploy techmax.yml. That is what I've entered here. So I'll copy this, then go back to my SSH session and paste it in there. Remember, the command is Ansible playbook and the name of your playbook. I called my playbook deploy techmax.yml here. You can see that is what I've entered here. Then press enter. And there you go. Ansible is running all the commands that I've listed on that playbook, which are listed on that tags. Ansible is running them on the EC2 instance. You can see here, for each tags that are listed in the playbook, Ansible is running them on each servers. We will wait for the playbook to finish running and we will test whether we can access our website. There you go. Ansible has successfully run the playbook. If you scroll up here, for every task listed in the playbook, for example, this is the task to update the EC2 instance. It ran successfully on that task. And the next task is to install the Apache server. It ran successfully on all three servers. So you can see for every task listed in the playbook, Ansible ran successfully on each servers. If you see anything red in your output, that means the playbook didn't run successfully on that particular task. For example, let's say the output for this IP address is red on this task. That means that the playbook didn't run successfully on this server for this task. And as you can see on my playbook, everything is yellow and here it says OK. That means the playbook ran successfully on the servers. So now if I go back to the EC2 console, I'll select the first server, copy the public IPv4 address, open a new browser, paste it in there, press enter, and there you go. You can see I can access my website. and we use Ansible to install this website on that server. Let's test the second server. I'll select the second one, copy the public IPv4 address. I'll close that, then open a new browser, paste it there, press enter, and there you go. You can see I can access the website on the second server. I'll close this and I'll test the third one. Copy the public IPv4 address, open a new browser, paste it there, press enter, and there you go. I can access the third server. So it doesn't matter how many servers you have. You can have hundreds of servers or thousands of servers. Ansible will run the playbook on all of them and install the website. I'll close this. This is how we use Ansible to configure the servers. In this lecture, we wrote a playbook to install a website on an EC2 instance. In the next lecture, we will write a playbook to do something else. So what I want us to do now is clean up. To clean up our environment, let's select all three servers, and we are going to terminate those servers. So select all three servers, under instance state, select terminate instance, and select terminate. I'm going to click refresh here, and it is terminating those three servers. We will use our ansible-machine server to run another playbook in the coming lectures. So I don't want you to terminate this EC2 instance yet. What I want you to do is select it, and we will stop it for now. Select instance state and select stop instance. Then click stop. I'm going to click refresh, and it is stopping the ansible-machine EC2 instance. This is how you can use Ansible to configure multiple servers. If you have any questions on this lecture or there's any part you don't understand, please leave your comments below. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next lecture. Bye.